Well, thanks everybody for showing up. This is awesome. I should have counted this ahead of time. I think this is our 10th one of these. So thanks so much to the folks at Ultratec for coming out. Thanks to everybody who signed up and who's going to be here. We are going to get started with a video from Ultratec, just going over the products that they're going into. Tony's also here. You're going to do some demos. I am available. We will have questions, so go ahead, post those in the chat. I will read those out over the course of the event, sort of when time allows, and then we'll do a Q&A at the end. So if you've got anything that isn't going to work well over text, or if you want to just do an audio question, just hold it to the end of the presentation, and we'll do it from there. But for now, I'll step aside and let Ultratec go from here.
Got a room full of smoke, you need to clear it out in a hurry. You can use that thing to do that as well. So, got Twister X fan. Oh, that's not really me. So hello everybody, Tony Wikner here from Ultratec Special Effects. And the first product we're showing today is the Twister X fan. So I've got one here I can put on the bench, adjust the camera. And here is our new Twister X fan. It's in the lineage of the Twister 2 fan that we sold years ago. And a lot of people are asking for a similar type product again. It's a very small fan, but heavy duty, weighs about 26 pounds. It's easy to move around. DMX operational, reversible as well. I just kicked the camera there, didn't I? So it's also can be run in a standalone mode. The nice thing about this one is the reversibility of it. If you get the camera in the right place there, you can see that it's got fins built into it. And those are what we would call an air straightener. So the way we're utilizing this fan's reversibility is in one direction, coming out the front way this way is a wide dispersion fan. And going the other way out, it'd be the narrow dispersion. I can probably display that better on our other model here. Let me reposition the camera again. I've got one here on a stand. So I'll position it in the upright position here. And go ahead and turn it on using my DMX. I've got this in the narrow direction right now. I'm gonna pull this on. I do not have it in the narrow. Now we're in the narrow direction. So about a foot off it. A nice tight spacing in that direction. If I flip the thing over, so it's going the other way. You can see about all the gigs now. With this DMX control too, you can just have a little whisper of wind, or you can really get it moving. I like to show that with our little Halloween beach ball guy here. So he's sitting on there now, and I'll run up this speed and set him to flying. If I go hard enough, he goes right out of the screen there. So it stays right in that tight column there, no problem. So, and I can gradually reduce the speed and he'll come in for a nice soft landing. I'm not sure if that's useful for most people or not, but it's a lot of fun to play with. So, okay, anyways, the stand is really the yoke for the thing as well too. It's got a little locking pin in it so you can lock it in position, but you can fold that up by pulling the locking pin, and you have a yoke for hanging the light, or like in that split position, you can use it for a stand on the floor. The handle right here is real easy to tighten, just simple little twist of that lever right there, and you've locked it in place. We also, you can put it on a rolling stand, to move it around your studio if you'd like as well. So that's our new Twister X fan, about 26 pounds, 72 dB is about how loud it is at about 10 feet. Nice. And it's very hot in my warehouse today, so I'm very happy to have it here as well. Feels very nice. Do we want to move on to the next product, or do you want to do any questions now, or how do you want to do that?
Sure. Yeah. If anybody has questions about this, feel free to put it in the chat. We can either grab some now. We can also keep going. If you think of a question later, feel free to drop it in the chat, and we'll take care of it then. So anybody's got questions now, I'll give you a little bit of time to type. Otherwise, yeah, Tony, we can just move on to the next thing. What's the list price on one of those?
Sales staff, please. Rachel or Kevin?
I'm like trying to unmute myself. The
Okay.
list price is $21.40 USD.
Perfect. Well, if any other questions come up, we can address them later. But for now, I think, yeah, we're good to move on to the next product.
All right, so I have one of our Radiance touring systems set up here. The Radiance touring system is a Radiance, our water-based haze system, in a custom-made road box that's made to fit that, and also one of our Versa fans. The Versa fan here on the bottom here can be raised up too and slidden in for storage inside it as well. And then it's got an angle adjustment rod that so you can adjust the angle of this and increase the spread of your haze, into a room. One of these things on full, two of these things on full is enough to do an arena when they really got the haze cranking out. And the fan speed is adjusted also by the DMX of the fan speed of the radiance. So you plug the fan in right into the back of the radiance, and there's a place in that for that. I'm going to pass in front of the camera here for a second. There's one of our actual radiance units here, and you can see the outlet right there where my thumb is. You plug your fan into that, and then you can control the fan speed, ramp it up and down with this fan, the one that's built into the thing. So very handy to have when you're trying to do that. This is one of our newer model radiances. It has the new LED DMX controls, and also if you're going to run it in standalone mode, you'd set it into that mode using these switches. Our standalone mode on a radiance is 600, and then the next two sets of digits are your fan speed and your pump speed on it. So very nice package. Just roll it into the room, plug it in. If it's in standalone mode, you just turn it on and let it go. And if you're wanting to use DMX, you just plug in your DMX cables, and it's ready in about 10 minutes to make massive amounts of haze for your room. So I'm going to pass in front of this camera again. I wish I had a wireless one where I didn't have to do so, but I always like to mention when we show our radiance hazer that when you're done at the end of the day with your hazer, you don't want to just shut it off. You want to bring your haze output, your pump, rating down to 0, and let all that haze burn off, before you were to shut it down for the day. It just makes sure you don't have to clean it nearly as often. Just let that stuff burn out. And then when it's not producing any more haze anymore, then you can run up and turn off the power switch on the back of the unit itself. So yeah, just roll her in. Got a fan that's made to blow it out, help get it out and distribute it quicker. I've seen so many shows where they put one in one side of the arena and one on the other side of the arena, running it high until they've established their haze, and then they back her way off. Great little unit. And like I said, it's been updated with the new LED DMX thumb wheels. The old ones worked great, except for there was a way for haze and whatever moisture and everything to get into the machine. And this is a sealed, this makes it sealed so it doesn't get in through there. So we've been having really good luck. They've been out for a few years on this machine, and all our new machines when they come out have that system as well. So the Radiance Hazer and the Radiance Touring System. Any questions about those?
And Tony, so just to clarify, the way that the fan works, so is that just a dimmed circuit on the back that comes out of it, and that's controlling the fan speed when you make that change over DMX?
I guess that'd be the best way to describe it. It's dimming, if you want to use that term, is changing the speed of this fan with this fan, the one that's actually on the unit. So that ties them together. So now this fan, as it stands alone, is completely controllable, with a what I want to say is a rotary switch on it, so you can set the speed on it. When you're using it to tie in with this, you just turn it on, just click for it, just clicks on and leave it at there. And at that point, it'll mimic the fan speed of this one. So, well, the one that's in the unit tied to it, but that's, it would be that fan on the back of that unit. And once again, you plug this fan into this outlet here.
And then I've got a question. Thanks, Carl. Is the capillary tube on the Radiance field replaceable in the new model?
Capillary tube. If he's saying what I'm thinking, he's saying that we don't use a capillary tube. We use a system of chambers that the fluid goes through and is heated up in and expands in. And it's field cleanable. Most times you would just take the cover off and give this a cleaning. on our website for the Radiance page, there's a whole documentation on how to clean it. It needs cleaning about every, about every 20 liters of fluid is what we recommend going through it. You'd want to take it apart and clean it. It's pretty simple. A couple of spring loaded hooks to remove the insulated cover. And then there's 4 nuts on top of inside that you would take off to remove the lid. There's a gasket in there that's reusable many times. You just clean that gunk out of there with a screwdriver, or we use a Dremel tool with a brush on it to clean it here in the shop. And then you might want to run something through the copper inlet and outlet tubes as well, because sometimes some residue will build up there as well. It's a 3/32 inch bit that we recommend for that. Usually have to get the longer, like the 6-inch bit though, because the standard bit won't reach all the way through the one copper tube and get into the chamber. So very easy to clean. But the formulation that we use to make haze does require it to be cleaned every once in a while. Like I said, about every 20 liters of fluid. It's about a 15-minute job. If you've done it before, maybe less. So
Awesome. Thank you. So yeah, folks, if you have any other questions on this, just go ahead and leave them in the chat. And I'm not seeing anything right away, so we should be good to move on to the next product.
I've got an Eclipse here on the floor, uses liquid CO2 to chill it. And then you add smoke from a G3000, in this case, smoke machine to it. And you get that nice, thick, heavy, lay on the floor kind of smoke. excuse me, fog. I got a friend of mine who calls it smoke all the time, and it's sticking to me. So anyways, the Eclipse is our updated version of the low line smoke machines that we've sold in the past. It's made of blow molded polypropylene, and it's very tough, road worthy thing. It's got built-in carry handles on it, front and back. The fan is on the back, and instead of the top of the unit as it used to be, a little more powerful fan too, 600 cubic feet per minute if you need to really push that smoke somewhere down the line. Using our G3000 fog machine to run this one. The G3000 and most of our smoke machines have an output on it that controls secondary products such as the Eclipse or the floor pocket, using, we call it the LSG output. Whatever your DMX channel is on your smoke machine to make your smoke, the next channel after that would turn off and on the Eclipse or the floor pocket or any other accessories that use that thing. Nice thing about this unit too is the CO2. Today I'm using high pressure CO2 out of a 20-pound bottle turned upside down to get the liquid there. But if you have access to Dewar tanks, the low pressure refrigerated CO2, there's also an input on this. The machines in the past that we sold, you either had to buy one or the other. This one does both. You know, you just have to move your input location on the back. So I'm going to walk in front of the camera here. Sorry. The 10-inch hose on this one is got a little locator ring on it that matches onto here. So it's a real quick push it on and give it a twist. And now you're locked in instead of having to get clamps out and everything like before to make that work. So I've got this tied into now one of our floor pockets back there. I'm going to walk in front of the camera again. So sorry. The floor pocket is an accessory for low line fog. You can build it into a deck, and using air pressure and the a DMX encoder of some sort. We're using one that we sell to raise and lower that. And now I'm going to go ahead and put out some CO2 from the Eclipse, pop that thing up, and now that's going to be my output for the low line smoke. So being that the smoke is heavier in air, everything goes down and spreads out nicely. So, and it's a flush built into the stage. So when you close that thing, you know, there's nothing for dancers to trip on or anything. So sometimes if you're lucky, you can get some cool smoke rings with it. You make it go up and down afterwards. Once again, not really something you need, but it's fun. So very positive connection. Yet the thing runs on anywhere from about 30 to 80 PSI, depending on how much you know your system is. You may have to regulate it down a little bit. I'm just using an air pig back there with 80 pounds pressure in it, working just fine. So that's one of the nice accessories for the Eclipse. So we mentioned in the video the fluids you can use with the Eclipse. We recommend the molecular fluid. This is the one that's been formulated for low line fog. It's you can see it's still hanging around here, down there, ankle, just above ankle level on the floor. This will last quite a while. This is what you normally would see when you see low line fog like this used in any of the concerts or TV shows you've seen with the low line fog. You can also use quick dissipating. You get the same initial look, but it goes away much quicker if you need to get that effect out there, but you need to clear it right away. If you don't have a Twister X fan handy to clear it out, it might be your best bet. So I also have another accessory hooked up for the LSG. You might get a couple different views of this. Like get the camera up there in the ceiling. I have, here it is, our fog curtain. Using the Eclipse to push the smoke up to this device. Works the same way. You give it CO2 first to chill it, and then after that you would add the smoke. And start with this view, and I've got one from the other direction as well. So It's not going to show very well from that one, so I'm going to switch the other camera. There we go. So gives a beautiful wall. You could project on it if you're straight. If you're viewing it from straight forward, you could use it for reveals, passing through it, or you can just kill it and let it go away to do your reveal as well. Of course, it was right over my head, so. So it's called the fog curtain, and I sometimes call it a waterfall out of habit from other products I've used in the past, but fog curtain is what we call it. I'll give you another shot of that from the start. Here's the CO2, chilling it, and then add the smoke. That's about 15 feet in the air there. And once it gets down to the ground, it just hugs the ground for a while as well. So this is the kind of the aftermath, you know, kind of hazy. That's also using the molecular fluid up there. And also, anyways, let's go back to the Eclipse. If anybody has any questions about the Eclipse or any of the accessories that go with that.
So Tony, we've got a couple of questions. Talk about how the Eclipse compares to the LSG.
It's really pretty much the same idea. The size is about the same. The LSG is made out of an insulated foam board, I guess you would say. The fans on the LSG were mounted on the top up here instead of in the back on this one. The LSG typically just comes with one valve in it, so you got to choose whether you want it to be low pressure or high pressure. There are some exceptions to that. There was some models that you could buy that had both. I'm have to check with sales on this, but I'm pretty sure this costs less than an LSG with both valves already in it than a regular LSG does with the two. So the output is identical to an LSG, same 10-inch output. There's you can't really see it from any of the views I have, but there's also a drain on this if you get any buildup of condensation in there. If you're running in a humid environment, you could get a buildup of condensation inside. There's a drain that you can do that. If you're in a location where you're running it for days, or if it's a permanent installation, you might want to have that hooked up to something, but uses the same smoke machine to feed it. It uses the same system to turn it off and on. It's a really, like I said, it's an updated version of that. You know, we like to think it's better because of the ruggedness of it, the lighter weight of it, the more versatility. The fan has an adjustable speed to it. So if you need to push that smoke, like if I'm pushing from the floor up here, so I got the fan on my other unit over here on pretty high to help push that. In this situation, you would just need to have the fan on just enough to keep any condensation from forming inside. So we always recommend you have the fan on somewhat. So this one's got, like, you know, built-in carry handles. Not that that's a huge deal because it's not a very heavy unit anyways. And if it's on the cart or in a road box, you'll be lifting from those locations. But oh, maintenance wise, you had to take the lid off of the other one. This one, you take the back off. All the electronics, fan, valves, and everything are located on the back panel, and it just slides back and out for access. So it's definitely easier to work on the valves and stuff in it. The other stuff about the same. It's just a different way of accessing it. So any other questions or anything you want to see again?
Another question that was in there was, let's see here. How loud is the unit in general?
The Eclipse unit?
Yeah.
Well, the smoke machine really doesn't make much sound at all. There is a little bit of a sound from the valve opening and closing and the CO2 running. I'll walk over by it and see if, you know, if it's something you can hear. It's not something that's objectionable, I don't think, though. So that's the sound of the CO2 valve in the van and the fan running if you can hear it.
Yeah. And then one of the other questions that came through is on all of the high pressure, should you turn your tanks over?
Oh, no, that's just because we don't have this is just a regular CO2 bottle. I wasn't able to get dip tubes. Normally you would use one that has a dip tube, so it's sucking from the bottom of the tank. And that's where it would be picking up the liquid CO2 and delivering it. But if you can't get that kind of a tank, then you can get a regular CO2 tank and then turn it over. Let me see if I can get a shot of that so they know what I'm talking about. See that tank is mounted to a cart and flipped over. That way, with the valve on the bottom, it's going to be liquid CO2 down there until it all runs out. That's just like if you're in the field and you can't get dip tubes and you need to do something, this is another way you can accomplish that. So just need to have some way of securing it so it's not going to fall over in that upside down position. So.
And we are getting some questions about new to using haze control in the theater, do the machines set off fire alarms?
Yes, they will. There are some fire alarms out there that are not affected by that, but most of them are. So you usually have to get them to turn them off in your theater. And sometimes that means you have to have a fire watch too, if you turn off those. So.
Somebody else was asking, what is the difference between the Eclipse versus the LSG?
Okay. It's really kind of the same thing. It's just an updated version of it. Like this one's made out of blow molded polypropylene, and the other one was made out of some sort of foam panels that were put together. That machine, worked great. We sold them for years and years, and there's a whole bunch of them out there, but they're kind of fragile. You wouldn't want to use them in this configuration. I don't think if you were shipping them anywhere, because if they got hit, they were pretty fragile. But I mean, this one, is like a kayak, the same material a kayak's made out of. It's pretty tough stuff. Other than that, this one has valves for both low and high pressure, and it has a bigger fan with an adjustable speed to it. Other than that, what you see coming out of the machine is almost identical. So.
Somebody else asked, does that mean that the LSGs are going to go away then?
No. So while the LSGs eventually will be phased out, what we're doing, obviously, like Tony had expressed, the Eclipse, because we made so many different modifications to it, and anybody who knows that, has had experience buying our LSGs in the past knows how many variations we have, and it got very confusing. So rather than have another updated version of an LSG, we renamed the machine because there was enough modifications on it. The LSGs themselves, we still have several that we're selling, and then we'll continue to support those for as long as we need to. So it's not anything that anybody needs to panic about, because we do have several customers that have LSGs in their fleet and would prefer to keep them that way, and that's fine. But as Tony said, one of the major selling features is because we've basically limited the different variations in the Eclipse, it does come in at a cheaper price point. And so you can get the Eclipse, the fog machine, and the variations are you can buy an Eclipse on a cart as a body only or in a road case, and you can get it with our G3000, with our PowerFog Industrial 9D, or with nothing. So those are basic, that's the variations that you can get. Whereas the LSG, I think there's like 15 different versions. So again, it's very confusing. But like, as Tony said, the major selling point is that it still will work. That Eclipse itself, if you have old LSGs and you just wanted to replace the unit inside, will fit in the same road case. So again, it's something that we've thought about, a lot of those different things, but we were trying to hit the points that had been asked from us, from specific customers who asked us to do some modifications to the LSGs, because they've been around for quite a long time, right? So it was time to do a little bit of updating.
Cool. Ned, should we try your mic again? See how you're doing?
All right, we're going to try this one more time. Am I still buzzing?
Nope.
Sound better now.
Fantastic. I apologize, folks. Had a microphone issue. Thanks for covering, Tobin. So yeah, we've got a question on the fan on the Eclipse. Is that DMX controllable independently, or is that How does
The
that
fan
work?
on the Eclipse is just it's got its own, you turn it off or on, you click, it clicks on, and then you can adjust it. It's not DMX adjustable. You adjust it on the floor. So typically you just turn it on and leave it at a low setting, but if you need to push it, up a tube, for a fog curtain or something like that, you can turn it up higher.
Yeah, Tony, would you be able to give a quick demonstration of that? One of the things that I pointed out to a customer when doing a demonstration of the actual unit, if you look at the fan, what the fan does. So if you run the Eclipse, Tony, just with the fan on low and then crank the fan up, you'll see that it'll push, there'll be about a 3-foot gap almost. It pushes it that far, that much further. So like Tony said, if you're doing a long run of hose, you're going to want to set that fan on high, and then you're just going to leave it set on high because that's what you're going to use it as. Right, but you're basically gonna, it's one of those things where we again, we talked about making the fan DMX controllable, but it's not really necessary. So it was like, to keep the cost down, it's one of the things that when you're going to be using it in a specific setup, you're going to know where you want that fan speed to be. So you're just going to go ahead and do it that way.
I'm not sure if it'll show very well in here, but I'll try.
Okay.
So I've got the fan on full right now. Then that's just CO2 coming out of there, and then I'll have some smoke. So pushing it out pretty quick pace. You go try turning it down.
See, and
Right
as
after-
you see, when he turns it down, it starts to create the accumulation more by the front of the machine instead of further out. It's really hard to see on camera, but I don't know if you could, if you were able to see that, but you can see it when you actually look at, when you do the demonstration live, you would be able to tell the difference.
I could use my twister fan to clear it. Now I can try again. So now the fan is just at the minimum speed now. And before it was hitting that platform when it was on high. So you got a small stage, you wouldn't really need to push it, but if you needed had a bigger stage and you wanted to get it from side to side quicker, that might be a good time to use that as well. Anything else?
Perfect. So yeah, folks, if you have any other questions about any of the products that we've seen today, just go ahead and leave them in chat. If you've got something you want to ask in person, or what we're calling in person these days, if you want to ask over audio over video, you can write something in the chat. I can unmute you, or I can have Tobin unmute you and turn on your video. I did want to mention, so Barbizon is running a special on Ultratec after this event. So the next 2 weeks, if you're talking to your salesperson, the code word is Zoomin. So we're doing a 5% sale on Ultratec gear. So if you talk to whoever you usually deal with at Barbizon knows about the promotion that we're running. So Tony, I've got a question about the LSX and how it compares to the LSG or to the Eclipse. How does it work, first of all, and then how does it compare?
The LSX is a refrigerated unit. Would pretty much be the same as, if you looked at an LS6 unit, it would look, kind of like an Eclipse, except for the Eclipse box would be a refrigerated box. You plug, into AC and turn it on and let it refrigerate. And it makes a cold environment. It basically works the same way the smoke goes through it. The problem is it's nowhere near as cold. We're talking, we're talking like 30 degrees cold, maybe a little colder, depending on your environment with the LSX. But it does work. It depends on your circumstances. If you're trying to do a big stage with a bunch of ballet dancers on it, as soon as they walk out there, it's because it's just barely cold enough to work, it's gonna rise. But if you're trying to, I've seen it used well, like on attractions and stuff where they're trying to get like the look of smoke going, fog going through the ferns and around the trees and everything. Works great for something like that. We've done all these demos that we just saw with floor pockets and fog curtains, you can do those with LSXs too. You may find it doesn't push as high. It's got a fan in it as well, but it probably won't push as high, but it will work. It will make a fog curtain. It will come out of a floor pocket and make a low line smoke. It's just not going to be able to cover as much area, not be able to cover it as quickly, and it's more fragile. If you get performers out there, it's going to wisp up and go away a lot quicker. So I mean, it's
quicker.
substantially colder with the liquid CO2, and if you're trying to do a big area with performers, it's the bomb. If you're trying to do a smaller area without performers or very few performers, then the LSX may work for you. It's a good product too. It's just, I mean, if you compare them side by side, just going out on the floor, they may look kind of the same, but as soon as you add performers or you get a larger stage, you got a bigger area to cover, they're the same, but quite different.
The LSX is definitely more subject to perfect conditions.
Oh
So,
yeah. I mean,
you've got great temperature, if you've got great airflow and airflow control and stuff like that, and like Tony said, you don't have people running through it, look wise it's great. But as soon as you start, if you've got climate issues, you got air movement issues, it'll rise much quicker than the CO2 units will. So we always say that it's an alternative, it's not a comparable, because anybody who uses an LSG or an Eclipse and then wants to substitute an LSX likely is going to be unhappy.
and we also sell the dry icer, for another low line effect. Dry ice, low line fog is probably the best looking one you can get, but it's only for a few, maybe 5 minutes, you can get one of those to run, then your ice is gone and your water's cold again and needs to be heated back up again. Plus it also leaves a very wet environment where it exits the hose, where this is not, this is smoke coming out of the hose, not the liquid that's formed, from the dry ice chemicals, the dry ice in the water, that leaves a very wet water-like, area. So that doesn't usually work too well with like dance troops and stuff like that. So even though it's beautiful, depends on your circumstances, which machine's best for you.
So I've got a question. Recommendations for like football team entrances, or something where somebody's bursting through the smoke, and also theatrical. So of the product lines that you've been discussing, is there one that's more focused on sort of that short-term effect look, and then something that's more geared specifically towards theatrical?
I've got a G3000 set up over here that I used at the beginning of the show to smoke the place up. It's got what we call a fast on chip in it. Normally a smoke machine, when you turn it on, it kind of ramps up to full speed, so it doesn't, hit with that big, clicking, kind of a chushing sound. It kind of almost makes a cracking sound when it comes on at full speed. But a powerful machine like a G3000 with both pumps going, and at full, will really push the smoke out. And that's what I would recommend. If you need to push it even more, we have something called a mega fog burst you can put on the front. This one actually has a mega fog burst on it, but it's not hooked up. It's just the fast on chip. So I'll run that for you real quick so you can, see what. And then I'm going to run the twister to get rid of it.
So that's a common thing. It just depends on what the team is looking for when they say run through, right? So if they wanted a fog curtain to run through, they could run through a fog curtain. If they wanted smoke, like Tony said, coming in on an angle, they could use G3000s. They could use G3000s with fast on chips or G3000s with mega fog bursts. We also have had customers use our ice jets. So for the cryo effect, right? It would just depend on what they were looking for. And then what we usually recommend to anybody, if you have questions about what your customer's trying to achieve or things that you would like to achieve before making a decision on what to buy, give us a call, because we will certainly, I'll be happy to go through what it is you're looking to try to do with the products, and then I'll recommend what's going to work best for you. because that's the easiest way to make sure you're getting what, something that's versatile and will cover everything. Again, like those things we were just saying, right? Where if you have an Eclipse and a G3000 and you can get a fog curtain, you could get a floor pocket, you could get the mega fog burst, and you basically have 5 different effects right off the bat. So it's just a matter of budget and what do you want to achieve. And again, by all means, I always say just reach out to us. We'll be happy to figure out what it is that you're looking for.
So yeah, anybody has any more questions, again, keep putting them in chat. But thanks again to everybody at Ultratec. This is always fun to be able to do stuff like this. And it's fun to not be the one coughing in the room full of smoke. I mean, it's fun to be able to see the effect. My lungs don't work in it very well anyway. But thanks to everybody who came out.